What's going on, everyone? Austin John Plays here, and today we're going to be talking about some new photos that came out for the Super Nintendo 64 controller for Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, as well as the Sega Genesis controller for Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack. I should really find a faster way to say these things. Yesterday, I put out a video sharing, pretty much recapping everything and sharing my views and opinions on this new service. And most notably from that video, I did not discuss pricing whatsoever. I have a lot to say about pricing, and honestly, it's all arbitrary until we actually know the pricing. Whether they're going to be doing a monthly thing or an annual thing or something else, we don't know yet. Information's coming out within a month or so, and by then, once we have more information, then I'm going to make a video discussing these things. I might make one beforehand, depending if content's slow. You know how YouTubers are. Anyways, let's hop into this. The Twitter page Nintendo Deal, which they normally do deals on specific things, actually has these photos that I've never seen before. Granted, I think the Nintendo press site is down, or there's something weird going on with it, so I haven't been able to get the official press kit for this Nintendo Direct. But we finally have high-resolution photos of the N64 and Sega Genesis controllers, including the top buttons, which this is something that we previously only saw a little nub at the top, and now we can see that, yes, in fact, there is USB-C. We have what appears to be either a reset button or an indicator light. We have ZR, which makes sense because under the analog stick is going to be Z and probably now mapped to ZL. We have the home button and the screenshot button. We have the pairing button and 4 indicator lights. In addition to that, at the top here, it has the Nintendo 64 logo, and it says Nintendo 64 controller. And that's exactly what it says on a Nintendo 64 controller. I'm not going to zoom in. My controller is filthy. Just take my word for it. Including these two little divots right here that seem to still be apparent on this new revision. And honestly, I've tried looking it up and I cannot find what these two indents were for. I don't remember anything using them. If you know what these two indents were for, leave a comment down below. I would love to actually know. There is also something to mention here, is that the back still has the cutout. And this cutout here has a plug on the back, and this plug was actually used for many, many things. First was the controller pack. Since there was no way to transfer information from one N64 cartridge to another N64 cartridge, they created the controller pack, which is just a memory card. This memory card was 32 kilobytes. I'm pretty sure it's kilobytes and not kilobits. 32 kilobytes of information that would go there. For reference, a modern MP3 is about 3,000, so it could hold, what, 2 seconds of an MP3? But it was mostly used for, say for example, in Mario Kart 64, if you had a ghost of a track, you could save that to the controller pack, go over your friend's house, plug your controller pack in, load up the ghost, and then they could try to race it, and you could actually just share the one controller pack going back and forth with ghosts on specific tracks. I did do that as a kid. Here is the Rumble Pack. This is what allowed the Nintendo 64 controller to have Rumble, and I think, pretty sure, it was the first gaming controller to have Rumble with this accessory. I think it was first used in Star Fox 64. It used 2 batteries, and I think Star Fox was actually bundled with this. Yeah, and then, oh, wasn't there in Ocarina of Time, I think it was called the Stone of Agony, so your controller would rumble when you were close to something? What I have so fond memories of, and I have handy somewhere, the transfer pack. Here is the Nintendo 64 transfer pack. This is great that I actually have one of these handy. The transfer pack would go into the back of an N64 controller, snap in, and then you would take your Pokemon game, red, blue, yellow, gold, silver, crystal for Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 respectively, and it would just slide into the back, and that would you allow to transfer data from the Game Boy Color games into the N64. It was used in Pokemon Stadium. which allowed you to unlock the Duo Game Boy, which was just an emulator that allowed you to play your actual Game Boy game at double speed. And then later, once you progressed, you unlocked the Dodrio Game Boy, and using the C right button, you were able to toggle between double, triple, and single speed. So you could essentially just play through the game at triple speed. However, it makes the controller so heavy. Because like right now, if I were to balance it on my finger, it like kind of remains balanced. It doesn't really teeter. But once I throw this bad boy on, it becomes very heavy. It does not have a good center of balance anymore. And it was a common practice to actually plug this into an additional controller plugged into the second or fourth slot. And then you were able to use that game in order to play through, and you could also transfer your Pokemon from the game into Pokemon Stadium and battle with your Pokemon and even organize them in Professor Oak's lab. Reading up here now, there was also the Japanese version of the Game Boy camera was able to be plugged into that for the Mario Artist series. Mario Golf and Mario Tennis allowed players to transfer their created characters from the Game Boy Color versions to the N64 versions. Huh. Oh, and it seems that Rare's Perfect Dark was initially going to be compatible with the transfer pack in order to use pictures taken with the Game Boy camera to create characters with real-life faces. But they chose not to do that after Columbine. Okay. And I do believe that's the end of the list here. And of course, now raises the question of, is that going to have any functionality? Is there going to be the port inside of there that's going to allow you to use your transfer pack, memory card, and rumble pack on your N64 controller? And I'm going to go out on a leg here and say that's a resounding no. I see zero chance of them actually being able to integrate this. Because if they were, they would have probably announced a whole series of these accessories. Why would we do the memory packs? Because that doesn't really serve a purpose anymore. We already know that Mario Kart 64 is going to have online functionality. What are they doing with the ghosts? Sharing ghosts back and forth, if there are going to be even doing that. There's no reason to have 32 kilobytes of memory going back and forth between controllers. They're probably going to have Rumble installed. It's a $50 controller after all. And most of these don't work anymore. There's an internal battery in the Gen 1 and Gen 2 games that have almost all completely dried out, so the game can no longer hold save data. So you either need to replace the battery, or you might be lucky enough to find one that still works, but most of them do not work anymore. And, like I mentioned, they probably aren't going to be doing that. I mean, you know, of course, there's the long shot dream of having the Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulators as part of the expansion pack service for Nintendo Switch Online, and being able to also have Pokemon Home compatible with it, just like we had on the 3DS titles that then went to Pokemon Bank via the transfer app inside of, or in association with Pokemon Bank. Did you need the transfer app, or was that only for DS games? I don't remember. And then there's also the Sega Genesis controller. At the top we have screenshot and home button, USB-C. We already saw at the bottom is where we have the indicator lights, and there's also the mode button on the top right. I don't know if I remember a mode button. I do remember there was a button that I think, yeah, when I was very, very young when I had the Sega Genesis, and I kind of remember a button here that I would press it and it wouldn't do anything. What was the mode button for? Let's research that. Genovi, channel with 13K subs, put out a video in 2017 trying to explain it. I don't think I'm understanding it. Then again, I kind of fast forwarded through the video. Has to do with how the controller communicates, pulsing, and everything that I've seen talks about the 6 button with the mode. Not many things talk about the 3 button. So I don't know what's going on with that. I really have no idea. Go ask Wolfden Bob about what that mode button is for. I'm sure he'd be happy to enlighten you. But now I want to bring up the fun idea of controllers like this. This is a third-party Nintendo 64 controller. That's USB. And as you can see, there's nothing in there for transfer pack or anything. It's by RetroLink. I think I got it for like 10 or 15 bucks at my local vintage video game store, Digital Press, the one in Springfield. There's also the one in Clifton that I used to live next to, and now I live near the one in Springfield. and controllers like this working with the Nintendo Switch. Upon plugging this controller into my Nintendo Switch dock, it does not register it as a USB controller whatsoever. It just doesn't work. I don't know if that's specifically about this controller, or it's just not made to work with this kind of controller, or exactly what's up. It has to be this specific controller, maybe because it's this cheap and garbagey. In fact, if you guys are interested, and leave some comment down below if there is some interest in this, I may do a video getting my hands on every single cheap Chinese USB controller / Bluetooth controller alternative for the Nintendo 64, Nintendo Switch Online. This does work. I've used it on my PC a whole bunch. Adapters and everything else to try to find cheaper and possibly better alternatives than the N64 controller that they are trying to sell us. So leave a comment down below if that's something that you guys would be interested in me reviewing. I'm now covering my face. But yeah, a lot of people are talking about, oh, the functionality of the transfer pack area. I don't see us having any functionality of that. Which now only remains one question. Is the analog stick still hot garbage? Because the analog stick is hot garbage. You could probably see, this is a real original one. Just see how loose that is? That was a very common thing on N64 controllers, that this became loose. And you talk about Joy-Con drift being a new thing? Nah, man. Joystick dead area on the N64. Granted, you weren't really ever slightly pushing it unless you were walking very, very slowly in Banjo-Kazooie or Super Mario 64. It's the only reason I could think of that. You're just like creeping around a corner. You never really creep around a corner in GoldenEye or Perfect Dark. You mostly use the C left and right stray buttons. Actually, once we come to like the shooters and everything, oh, I forgot about strafe left and strafe right. Yeah. I mean, there were some first-person shooter games that you would actually do the left holding. So you would use the analog stick and the D-pad, and you have the trigger down here. And you would basically only have these two buttons, but then you had the D-pad and you had this to go around and do stuff. And that was Nintendo's interpretation of the dual analog stick. Some games offered that. I think it was Perfect Dark that allowed you to use two N64 controllers. So you had dual analog sticks in order to play the game. It was either that or GoldenEye. It was one of the two. And I remember once as a kid when I was bored, I saw it in the options and I did it. And it was so weird and I wanted nothing to do with that ever again. So yeah, leave a comment down below on your thoughts and opinions on this controller. If you think that this should have some horrible redundant functionality for no reason whatsoever, or if you understand because you're a mature adult that this is completely pointless. These controllers better have rumble, straight up better have rumble. I want Stone of Agony in Ocarina of Time. Well guys, I'm wrapping up this video. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button down below, or hit the subscribe button. We're pumping out this content. We're talking about all the things in the games and the Zeldas and the Pokemans and the Switch and stuff. And I might be at Too Many Games 2 weeks from now in Pennsylvania. I mean, Oaks, Pennsylvania. I went 2019, had a great time. So I may be going again this year. Follow me on Twitter for more updates about that. And until next time, Austin John out.